Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to challenge the status quo and come up with a few changes in how we could operate and I'm hoping to generate some discussion because some of these things could use even more adjustment to what I'm suggesting. I often hear people rally for a 3 day weekend every week, and usually when people say they want a 3 day weekend, they almost always want to work for 4 days and then take a 3 day weekend, right? But I challenge an in between solution. See, the problem with working 4 days is that depending on what you do for a living, sometimes it could feel like you're losing ground when you take off after the fourth day. So I'm thinking it's also possible to work 5 days and then take a 3 day weekend, right? Sometimes we just forget to think outside the box. I don't think there's anything wrong with changing how many days there are in a week. I think the 7 day week comes from some sort of religion, but I think religion should be flexible to adjust for changes in our lives, right? Another thing that can be really frustrating with how we arrange our weekends is sometimes Murphy's law always seems to kick in, and the weather always tends to be really bad on the weekends, right? So I'm thinking we could dynamically adjust our weekends based on how the weather is looking in the coming days, right? So, for example, if if work is going very well and the weather is stormy out there, I don't see a problem with working a sixth day and then saving that weekend day for later, right? We could have some kind of system for dynamically adjusting our weekends based on the weather, right? Speaking of scheduling our days, I don't see any good reason why a day has to be 24 hours. For example, right now I'm recording this in quarantine, right? It's May 4th, 2020. Right now, what time is it right now? 9:25 a.m. I'm sleeping. I slept rather normal hours last night, but my sleep has shifted later and later and later. That's why I'm back to normal, right? Because we've been in quarantine for 2 months now, and my sleep keeps shifting. And my day tends to be about 26 hours long, but I like it. You know, during the normal times, I had a lot of trouble sleeping. I'm not having any trouble sleeping at all. I don't think I have insomnia. All I have is that I'm trying to jam my 26-hour body. I come from a planet that days are 26 hours, and I'm trying to live on a planet that has days of 24 hours, right? And I think a lot of people with so-called insomnia behave like that, right? So there's no good reason a day has to be 24 hours, especially now that we have artificial lighting, right? Just something to ponder about. Okay, when I was a kid, we used to think that one day we would grow up to not have to eat physical food anymore. We could take a pill. And I think the idea of that is possible now, but a lot of people dislike it because they enjoy their food, right? Basically, but I think it would be very helpful because, especially, I spend a lot of time near the computer, and my computer's always very messy and very sticky because I spend so much time programming that I've always I eat most of my meals in front of the machine, and having that pill would not be that bad an idea. The other reason I like about the pill is that it's more easy to control how much you're eating, right? For example, it's a lot easier for me to not start eating than to stop a meal, right? So I often go on a fast for 15, 16 hours, and then I just eat that one giant meal during the day, right? That's a lot easier for me to control than to try to eat 5 meals a day, right? And so it makes me wonder if we just had a pill, it would be so much easier to ration what I was eating. And plus, my computer workstation wouldn't have to be a huge mess, right? Okay, another thing I learned from the quarantine is one of the big reasons I fear getting married. You know, and I'm still single. Is that I love having a break from a relationship from time to time. Right now I'm enjoying that break again. When I was working on my PhD, I had a very rough relationship, and after I'd broken up with the girl, one day I was planning to go to a coin collecting show. I used to collect coins, and we had just broken up, and I was like, oh my god, I don't have a girl to bring to that coin show. and I went by myself, and I had the best time of my life, and I swore off dating, and I didn't date again for about a year actually after that, and I really enjoyed it. Um, and then 3 years after that, I had started writing computer games, and I was getting ready for my first computer game conference. And I got so busy that I also didn't date for about 4 months that time. And I really enjoyed that break from dating. And of course, right now, I have to take time away from my girlfriend because she lives with her family, and elderly people definitely don't want to cause any illness to her family members, and I really enjoyed. I was terrified at the beginning of the crisis, but now I'm enjoying my time alone, and I think we're gonna stay apart after this is all over because we really both of us really enjoy our time alone. I mean, we're still close, but we really enjoyed our time alone, and it makes me wonder why we can't have some sort of marriage agreement that has predefined breaks before we get married. Like every 5 years, we take like a 6 month break from each other. I wonder if you could have a marriage contract that has something like that. I've never seen it, but again, I'm thinking outside the box, right? Okay, after this is all over, this quarantine is over, I hope to travel a little bit. And one of the big frustrations when I fly is to be stuck with language barriers with whoever's sitting next to me, right? Because I have certain things I need to pay attention to, right? I have allergies, and I certainly don't want people to spill food. I don't find it. I don't find that I should ask the airlines to ban certain. I've been on airplanes where they announced that please do not eat so and so because we have a passenger with an allergy. I find that a little bit too intrusive. I usually just prefer people to be careful not to spill their food. Plus, I love educating people on stuff like that, right? To outright ban something, it just doesn't feel in the right spirits. The problem is I sometimes get stuck with somebody who doesn't speak English, right? So it makes me wonder, when you book an airline ticket, why can't you input like what languages you speak, and then the airline could arrange to always have people who speak the same languages together, right? I mean, there's a lot of good reason for that besides the food allergies, right? I'm thinking outside the box. It might be a problem in some areas where this might be considered discrimination, right? But you have a good reason for it, right? And you're only grouping people who speak languages, right? I've never seen somebody who speaks a certain language as a protected class, right? It's usually a certain race or national origin, right? I'm not sure if speaking a language would qualify for something like that. And plus, you have a very good reason for it, right? Okay. Um, Speaking of traveling, I travel by car a lot, and one of the big frustrations every time I need to get my car serviced is somebody gets in my driver's seat and they change the settings, right? The seat, the mirrors, and I get very used to my settings, and it always takes a big learning curve to get back to feeling safe on the road again, right? It makes you wonder with cars that are so computerized nowadays why you can't save your settings, and then after you get your car serviced, you could press a reset button and it will move your seats and your mirrors back to where you had hit the save button when you had done that, right? Another thing about cars that I thought about is that I love to squeeze gas mileage from my car. My car's rated for 40 miles a gallon on the highway, but I'm always playing a game to see how many miles a gallon I can get, right? Because I have a setting to see that. I think when I go from Seattle to Ellensburg and then back, I usually measure both ways, right? That way I can get both the uphill and downhill. I think my record is getting like 62 miles per gallon in the car. It makes you wonder, when you're driving on the road, right? If you could have signs on the road that could direct you based on traffic ahead, how many miles an hour you should drive to maximize your gas mileage, right? Especially in the city where you have traffic lights. If you could have signs that tell you, hey, you need to go 33 miles an hour in order to make the next traffic light, or stop accelerating now, or something like that, so that everybody could maximize their gas mileage, right? It might even increase some safety, right? If you could predict ahead what's going on, right? Another another safety feature I've thought about is if you have a road where a lot of people are constantly speeding, right? You could put a giant electromagnet at the point where people are speeding, and if somebody is speeding, you turn on the electromagnet. It will slow the car. I'm not sure if the car is conductive enough to do this, but it will generate electric current around the car, which will cause the car to slow down. If you've ever been on a roller coaster where there are contactless brakes, right? There's usually a magnet along the roller coaster, and the roller coaster goes through it, and it generates an eddy current, basically, right? And it slows down, right? I wonder why you can't do it on the highway, right? So I also got an inspiration because our car tells us the gas mileage, right? And you can constantly watch it and it changes your driving behavior, right? I wish we could put a meter on our body somehow, right? If you start to eat something unhealthy or you start to miss your exercise, that meter will give you a warning. Oh my God, you've only been burning 600 calories today, or, this is how much trans fat you've been eating all day. I bet it would change a lot of people's behaviors if they saw in real time, how much they were killing themselves, right? Uh, Okay, now that we're stuck at home, I've been handling a lot of things remotely, right? When I have to call somebody and I have to input a series of numbers, right? Whether it be a credit card number or an account number of some sort, or depending on, I used to have a phone card for calling other countries that was a lot cheaper than the local rates I was getting, right? And you had to enter a phone card number. One of the big frustrations is if you have a series of numbers to enter, if you hit the wrong number, you almost always have to start all over again, right? It makes me wonder why we can't use one of the other keys on the phone, like the pound sign or the star, as kind of like backspace, right? I guess the big problem is that how we introduce the concept, right? If you're in the phone menu, please enter your social security number using the pound sign as a backspace, right? That adds a few seconds to the prompt, right? It would have to be everybody gets used to that idea before it could. It's a catch-22, right? Somebody needs to introduce it for it to become popular for you to not have to announce it, right? So, but it's thinking outside the box, right? I challenge you to think about these and make some adjustments to it, and maybe even practice it somehow to kind of bring some attention to all the benefits to it, right? Thanks for watching.